invite on stage somebody who sparked a lot of what we are experiencing here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite on stage Mr. Raju Reddy, co-founder Kakatiya Sandbox, to deliver his address.
Thank you, Harish. Good morning, everyone. Lovely, lovely. Thank you, thank you. A very warm welcome to all the leaders from business, academia, government, and various walks of life
that are here. How many of you are here for the first time at a DD? Oh, quite a few. Okay. So, a special welcome to you all.
Before I begin, what do you say about Manish? Fantastic job, isn't it? Amazing young man. He's actually helped build the Kakatiya Sandbox over the last 3 years here. And a few months ago, he got promoted to be the CEO of the Deshpande Startups, the entity that runs all our startup programs, both in Hubli as well as here in Telangana. And, we can't be more thrilled than that. And we also have a new leader, Praveen Mutyalu. Where is Praveen? Yeah, Praveen, welcome him. He just joined us recently, I guess 2 weeks ago, as the head of Kakatiya Sandbox. He will come later on in the day and talk to you. So Praveen actually worked with my co-founder, Fanindra Sama, at Redbus for almost 10 years in a variety of roles. And so we are thrilled to have this kind of a leadership team. Since there are quite a few that are here for the first time, I thought I'll just share a few thoughts on sort of kind of the background of why, what of, the sandbox model of economic development. One, it's been about 12 years since we started this initiative here in Telangana. And it's all work inspired by Deshpande and Jayashree Deshpande, who have just been phenomenal. That's the work that they started in Hubli, I think roughly about 5 years before we started the Kakatiya Sandbox. And, thankfully, I had one of the best partners that anybody could have asked for something like this, that Fanindra Sama, one of the most celebrated young entrepreneurs in all of India. And he happens to be from Nizamabad, right? And I think those of you who were at Sangat last night know there is a lot of amazing talent here in Nizamabad and for that matter in, towns like this. And so at a high level, there are kind of three main constructs. One, it's a bottom-up form of socio-economic development, meaning unless the local people are an active part of the solution, these changes are not sustainable. It can be somebody sitting in Hyderabad or Bangalore, let alone Silicon Valley, that really can make this change happen. We can catalyze, we can introduce ideas, we can spend time, hopefully inspire some and all of that. But at the end of the day, there has to be a lot of local ownership. And I think you'll see that through the course of the day in our various, programs that we have here. Second, sort of take an entrepreneurial mindset to addressing social challenges. Meaning charity is fine, but it's not something that scales. So in all our programs, we try and have the beneficiary also pay for some part of it. Now, in cases where they cannot, we do, take care of that. But, that way there is more ownership, more accountability, and really wanting to participate in that change. And you saw some of those change makers light the lamp earlier today, right? And so they really are the reason why, we see the kind of impact that we have here at Kakatiya Sandbox. So give them a big hand, please, all the change makers that we have. And, third is actually on the second one, kind of, I like the way Desh describes that. It's like, if you can combine the compassion of the non-profit world with the execution excellence of the for-profit world, then you get outstanding results. And in many ways, you'll find that in a lot of our programs, we kind of try and measure the impact and see how we can improve. So a lot of our programs have evolved consistently year after year. And, just like any startup, I suppose, right? That's what we do in the business world. And the third is scale. In a country of, 1.4 billion people, there are a lot of people who are doing wonderful work in one village here and there. God bless them. That's fantastic. We need that. But unless you touch a large population, you're not going to make a meaningful difference. So typical, in the initial days, we started with roughly about 10 million people in the old districts of Nizam, all North Telangana primarily. And today I would say over time, our impact region is expanded to roughly about 1% of India's population. There are, people in Nanded, in the border state of Maharashtra, and in Nalgonda and other parts of Telangana. And that's all based on market demand. It's not like something we said, oh, let's go do something in Nanded or Nalgonda or wherever. Oftentimes, Manish talked about some of the partners through which our programs have scaled. That's kind of how, this thing has evolved. So those are at a high level, kind of the main tenets of, what we call the sandbox model. And, I was just thinking about this, the main theme about scaling, in Bharat, right? There are a lot of things that, we are certainly working on, one of which is sort of how do you not just make our youth more employable, but can we nurture more entrepreneurs among them so they become the job creators of tomorrow? There's phenomenal potential. I think you'll see some of that. We have a separate entrepreneur track. Hopefully you'll get a chance to meet some of the students, with all kinds of amazing ideas and other young entrepreneurs in our region. And so there are things like that. But at the end of the day, I think, it's all the people that matter that will help us scale. And that's really what has happened. So for each of you that are here, I really wanted to say we're extremely grateful that you've taken the time. As Manish said, many of you have flown from Silicon Valley, all over US, and of course from Bangalore, Delhi, or whatever different parts of India. And, so we just can't thank you enough for being here. And this is a self-selected group. You are here because you care about the problems we are solving. And that's the only way we're going to scale. As founders of the Kakatiya Sandbox, Funny and I, we can paint a vision of what's possible. And, when we succeed at that, hopefully it can also become a model for other parts of India. But the path, I think Manish talked about it beautifully, but the path of getting there are a lot of unknowns to it. Just like building any company, any startup and all of that. And many of you have actually had a huge impact already. I mean, with your ideas, time, capital, all kinds of things. How many of you had a chance to visit the K-Hub? Anyone? Okay, quite a few of you. The rest of you who have not, please take the time. And that's a campus that will open later this year. And, as Manish and I talked about it a few times, I mean, it's a fairly large investment for us. And, a lot of that came with donor support from people all over. In fact, my good friend Anil is sitting there, and NC Murthy and several other, Anjumaram, and, many of them who have been actively supporting us. In Anil's case, he actually, I was just thinking, I remember having this conversation about 3 years ago when I talked about the K-Hub and saying, well, it may be about 20, 30 crores that we would need to build that. He said, hey, why would you think of just 20, 30? Why don't you make it a 100 crore initiative, right? Because we need the longevity for these things. And so I'm saying it's not just the capital, but also the ideas and participation. Many of you have made this your own project. So, and that's the only way these things can actually grow to have that scale in Bharat. And, so there are different ways, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever your area of expertise or resources, please, we are absolutely thrilled to have something like that. And with K-Hub, Manish and I talked about this a few times. We want it to be like a temple built by the community for the community. It's not mine or Funny's or, even the Deshpande family, right? Sure, we have a big role in getting that up and running and all of that. But it's just remarkable, the kind of people that we have. You saw Manish here, but there's several others like him. I see Sahiti, Shirisha. I mean, these names may not mean anything to you, but through the course of the day, you'll probably interact with them. Just extraordinary young men and women, many of them coming from the rural areas and from the family economic background that we are really trying to make an impact. And they are now the leaders running a lot of Kakatiya Sandbox. And that to me, my friends, is one of the, I think, secret sauce or the biggest assets we have here at Kakatiya Sandbox. So give a big hand to all those people and the volunteers and everybody. So again, when we do this right, And one of the things I also mention is, we named it after Kakatiya because that was the golden era of Telugu rulers. They ran for about 200 years. So we are only 12 years into it. We still got another 188 years to go. And so, and the idea behind that is to say, this is not about me or Funny or any of us. It has to transcend certainly my generation, but also Funny's generation and others, right? And so each of you, we hope and, really wish will continue to be a great, sort of a participant in building this, model, hopefully for rural India, for the rest of India in decades to come. And once again, thank you very much, and look forward to, conversations through the course of the day. Thank you.
Okay, so if anybody in this room is struggling to understand or fathom the scale we are talking about, let me give you a context. If you heard what Mr. Raju Reddy had to say, we have touched 1% of this country's population, which actually means with 99 more such bodies, I think we will have an entire country. The entire population can be skilled and can be taken to a level where they can sustain themselves and their families. So when we say 1% of India's population, try and imagine the kind of scale that we have managed to get. And that is what we need in larger numbers. So thank you so much, Raju Reddy Garu. Big round of applause once again for sharing your thoughts. Now that we're talking about scale, it's time for the first panel. We're talking about people who have mastered this game in more ways than one. People who have mastered this game of scaling up. And as moderator of this panel, we have none other than our very own Mr. Fanindra Sama, co-founder, Red Bus, the world's largest online bus ticketing company, Subsec and Kakatiya Sandbox, a social impact venture based out of his very own hometown, Nizamabad. 40 under 40. No, hang on. I mean, that's what he always does. And compared to last year, this year, the biggest change is the fact that you at least got your own jacket. Because last time he sauntered in and somebody said, it would be great if you wear a jacket. And Manish and Funny, they said, let's recycle. And even there, they managed to recycle something. So Funny, lovely having you here. Please. Pleasure, pleasure. So, 30 seconds? Done? Okay, right. So, along with him in this panel, we also have Brigadier P. Ganesham, BSM retired, founder and president of Palesrujana. Dr. Ganesham is the founder of Palesrujana, a grassroots innovation movement dedicated to empowering rural innovators in India. A retired Indian Navy officer, he has devoted his post-service career to identifying, nurturing, and scaling rural innovations that address local challenges. Now, we already know why he is so relevant to this forum. His relentless efforts have transformed countless rural lives, making him a champion of inclusive innovation and self-reliant communities. Please put your hands together as I invite on stage Brigadier P. Ganesham. Once a 4G, always a 4G, aren't you, sir? So, joining this panel, we also have Ms. Gayatri Vasudevan, Chief Impact Officer, Sambhav Foundation, an experienced CEO with a demonstrated history of working in the civic and social organization industry, skilled in sustainable development, social enterprise, corporate social responsibility, strategic planning and rural development. You surely has a strong business development professional with a doctor of philosophy focused in development economics and international development from the University of Delhi. Please put your hands together as I invite on stage Ms. Gayatri Vasudevan, Chief Impact Officer from Sambhav Foundation, to join us on stage. All yours.
Thank you. Hello. 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 It's working, right? Hello. Yeah. Okay, thank you for the kind introductions. I'm very pleased to have both of you on the panel. It's a very relevant topic, and both of you have done such fantastic work. To start with, Brigadier Garu, you've been in the defense, and from there, like, how did you start the innovation movement that you started, Palisrujana?
Thank you very much, Kakatiya Sandbox and all the sponsors. Before respond to Pani, don't start my name with retired. I'm not tired. It should be at the end. What introduction, right. I come from Telangana. I was short. Even now I'm short. I was 4 feet 11 inches when I joined engineering college, Osmania.
You want to put the mic closer?
Okay. Is it okay?
Yeah, as close as possible.
So there was never army in my radar. The kind of a physique I have come from the very humble backgrounds. But one of those days in the college final year, naval authorities have come to select university entry scheme. So they came to interview people and take some of them after medical checkup. So my friends dragged me there, though I was not interested. And when the introduction started by a naval officer, something struck me. That guy who was wearing a white uniform and sparkling stars and impeccable English was only 5 feet 3 inches. And that was a defining moment in my life. I appeared, I got selected, went on, that's where my army went on. But what happened in the army was something so different. While I kept on serving in the Siachen and the Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan, Assam, everywhere, I found that the nature is, it's not enemy to you, but nature is a complex parameter in your operation in army. How do you handle it? And each Jawan has to handle himself with the standardized weapon we give him. And if that is not done, the operation is not successful. So over a period of time, I found that Jawans innovate. We win wars because Jawans innovate. Each Jawan innovates, uses this his training, his weapon, to accomplish the mission assigned to him. And I came to a conclusion that generals plan the war and soldiers win the war by their innovation. You can clap if you wish to for generals. Right. So it became totally consolidated to me during the Kargil war, where against all odds, the amazing work was done in the open area. They assembled the weapons and did a lot of things. So that innovation was in our hearts, and we started innovation movement in the army, and a lot of work has been done. And there was a can I give an example?
Go ahead.
Yeah. We collected innovations from across the country from the ground, analyzed them and consolidated them and published a book for Army Innovation Compendium way back in 2002. And that we circulated across the army units. It was so useful to the commanders and the people who handle equipment that they had solutions to most of their problems given in the book. And that's the one that, talking about scale, I don't know what we did, but scaling of dissemination of ideas, dissemination of solutions happened just by printing a book, and that's the time we didn't have digital facility. And there we picked up 40 of them from the ground, not engineers, need not be only, even infantry soldiers who were going to pick them up, and tasked them to make a vehicle known as Windy. Windy is a multi-weapon platform which was required by Indian Army but not available anywhere in the world. So we thought, shall we develop, not a design, develop a Windy vehicle. And these guys have made it in 6 months, amazing vehicle. And that we put it through various trials in the Jammu, Rajasthan and even Ladakh, and certain modifications done. And the users were very happy with it. then what? We're not corporate, we're not manufacturing agency. Army is supposed to use the weapons. So we displayed that outside South Block in Delhi, and people saw it one day, third day, fourth day. Finally, George Fernandez has come, who was defense minister at that time. And he saw the whole thing, heard the story, and then he asked, he thought for a while, then he said, Brigadier, is it really made by my Indian Army? We confidently said, yes, sir. Then he said that was the 22nd December 2004, 2003, I think, 2003. Then he said, okay, this will go into the Rajpath on 26th day parade. And that's the way the credit given to the Jawans who made the vehicle was enormous to the extent of getting onto the Rajpath for Republic Day parade. Then we applied for patent for it. Though there's lots of stories behind that patent, but we got a patent which is also happens to be the first patent for the Indian Army. So these are small things, but when we put them together, we found that there's a untapped, innate strength in the organization, especially at the lowest level. And they did wonders, but not much documented, not much highlighted. So we tried to leverage that by making an organization from top to bottom, innovation organization, maybe first army in the world to do that, to capture these silent, innovative people and grow intrinsically depending on the context. That's the way we went about. It was a great experience. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much for this background. So how did Palle Srijana happen? What does Palle Srijana do?
So while this, my thoughts of consolidated thoughts of creativity at the lower level of the organization, lower means hierarchically lower. I was wondering, is it really true outside, like in the government, like in the private industry, like in the public industry, society? I have no idea because we grew up in the vertical of army. So when we paraded our vehicle on the Republic Day, 2004, Anand Mahindra called up that evening. He said, Brigadier, how can you do this? When me and Ratan Tata pulling our hair, we did not put our vehicle on the Rajpath. But he said we had a good time, talked a lot, and then he recommended us to be part of governing body of National Innovation Foundation, me and my general both. So we used to start attending the National Innovation Foundation, which is part of the Department of Science and Technology. There we saw the database, we met Professor Anil Gupta, we met Dr. Mashelkar, and they are the pioneers who started this NIF. And there we found that they're doing exactly what we thought in the army. They were already there. They believe in the society's creativity, and they're scouting it, documenting it, doing it. Then I said, oh, I was innocent, but things were happening. I was happy to see that such activities going on in this country. And more we see, by then they collected over 80,000 innovations from the country, by then, 2003. Imagine what a number. So one of those meetings found that there hardly anybody from Telugu states. There was only one state, nothing from Telugu state. Nobody was there. So I asked Mashelkar, Telugu వాళ్ళకి తెలియలేదా అని అడిగాను నేను. He said that we don't have non-governmental organizations in Andhra Pradesh, undivided Andhra Pradesh, who can voluntarily scout such innovative people in the villages and document and bring it back to NIF. So that's the reason there were not many. So that's the point which struck me, that when I retire, I must come back to Hyderabad, my place, and do this noble job of scouting the creative people, documenting them, and disseminate this horizontally, vertically, wherever the way it is. It happened like that. And 31st October 2005, retired, and 20th November 2005, we started Palle Srijana. Palle is village, Srijana is creativity. We start with believing and the conviction that villages have creativity, and that's where we went on.
Wow, what an inspiring story. And later in the conversation, you will learn how impactful Brigadier Sir's impact has been in the Telugu-speaking states. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Gayatri, thank you so much for coming all the way to Nizamabad. Again, a very, very inspiring story on the impact that Gayatri is making. So over to you, Gayatri, why are you doing what you're doing and what are you doing?
So, I think why I'm doing it is I just had a very interesting breakfast conversation with Arun. He asked me the same question. I think I pretty much do what I like. That's a very simple answer is I think I grew up with a lot of privilege. And every time I see young people, I feel that privilege is what is missing. I don't think there's any other reason for one to do well or not to do well. So I think I've, I, I have been in the development sector from the beginning. Since I was 20, I've always been keen to solve problems which I think are solvable. And I think it's about money, opportunity, and that's about it. And I don't know it's in which order, is it money or opportunity, but I think that's the key to solving it, and that's really my reason to do it.
Sure. And what do you do, Gayatri? What does Sambhav Foundation and LabourNet do? How are they different? How are they similar? What do you do in the foundation?
So I'll just sort of step back before Sambhav and LabourNet. For about a decade or so, I was part of a part of ILO. So a large part of what ILO does is work with countries and look to see that the education and labor policies.
What's the full form of ILO?
Yeah, International Labour Organization, which is one of the United Nations organization. So a large part of my work was to see if governments' policies with respect to skill training, what we call TVET, right, vocational training, ITIs, higher secondary education, and employment exchanges are married or not. So I looked at it in the South Asia subcontinent, which is Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, etc. And I found that there was nothing wrong with the policy. It was more an execution problem that was there, and execution had number of issues which I think at a policy level we write very good documents. So the question was not, was the intent there? It was how to do it which was the problem. So when I quit, I set up, I mean, rather naively, I thought I could set up a private limited company. I called it a social enterprise because that's what everybody else called it, and it was the fashion in the mid 2000s, and thought, let me figure out execution. Within 3 years, I realized that running a company was very different from giving grants, was very different from writing policies, right?
What was the company supposed to do, and what is it called?
Company is LabourNet, and we fundamentally tried to look at people's skill set and match them to jobs and ensure that they move to jobs and have careers. That's really what we attempted to do, and we did it on the basis of what India already had. India already had modular employment skills, so you could do certification. And that time call centers were the rage of the town, so we said, why don't we bring it in and do a matching engine? I mean, I'll sort of cut the story short, but over time we realized that the key is to actually get people to jobs. So today LabourNet services about 10,000 people per month and ensures that they get full-time jobs.
Wow.
So that's really
So 10,000 people get a job through LabourNet every month.
That's right, that's right.
And what's the total number of people who've gotten a job through LabourNet?
Say about 1 million in the last.
Wow.
But but let me put a caveat there. We struggled through this entire thing, right? What is a full-time job? Is the person joining? Is the person coming from college? ITI? How do you do a course job match? Is it all monetized? There were a lot of nuances there. So the number looks big, but I think if and when there is time, I will also tell you the nuances where we shouldn't be overly optimistic. I often get very scared, and I actually got my phone thinking to myself, I read a very interesting quote on mediocrity. So I think that's something I would like to remember as I move forward. Yeah, but that's what LabourNet does. Sambhav, what we did is the COVID actually was a turning point for us, at least for me. I was feeling to myself, look at the amount of money we have taken. If we had done, forget what the government had done or not, if all of us in the not-for-profit and social enterprise did what we were supposed to do, I don't think this country should have had this level of poverty. So I was feeling like we paid ourselves way too much and had too much credit. And therefore I thought, what if we create clusters where people have choices? So today Sambhav runs about 100 what we call clusters, where we have a training center, we work with a government school, we work with a primary healthcare center, and soon we'll be starting to work with waste. We feel this environment, if it is right, then learner and earner absenteeism may be less, and they will continue to move towards a job. So that's what Sambhav does.
And what learners are these? These are like, what age group are they? And 100 centers in the sense, where are they? I mean, are they?
Yeah. So 100 centers are across India, but 75% are in urban slums. So we've consciously put it on the main roads so that we are visible. So they will be near urban slums, but on the main road. Wanted to give them the status in a sense. So Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, Mumbai, Delhi NCR are our major operations. 25% are in really rural areas. Like for example, here in Medak, about 20 kilometers from Medak actually. Then like that, we have multiple places, Jojobera, Dumduma, etc., Ita, etc.
What age group are the students?
18 to 30 is our target. So 18 to 30, and from a skill set perspective, we have 5 domains that we deal with. So manufacturing, that is welders, fitters, CNC operators, is assembly operators now, are one major domain. Second, in the last 2 years, we have really grown on the EV service technician, auto service technician in EV. So all of this is very automobile industry, sales, service, manufacturing. We are pretty much very integrated into automotive. The second part of it is in the construction industry, which is how LabourNet started, and therefore plumbers, electricians, painters are the main, steel fabricators are the main group that we deal with. And the beauty and apparel are also something that we've constantly had. So we've always looked at it from a perspective of what does the community need, what is it that the consumer needs. So, and tried to map it.
Sure. Just one last question. So when you say plumber, do you take somebody who knows plumbing and then do a finishing touch and get them a job, or do you take somebody who doesn't know plumbing and then teach them plumbing and then get them a job? And how long does it take?
Actually, the second model where you teach somebody plumbing failed very badly. It didn't succeed at all. The entire construction, when we did it from scratch to train, didn't work at all. It's worked better in an ITI, in an industrial training center where there's a longer period that one has there. So what we've started doing is go from the company downwards. So I'll give you an example. Like with Kohler, we work with plumbers to give them new products. So our training is restricted to the new products that Kohler has.
Okay.
Or like for example, now we're starting off again with plumbers, with Hyderabad Industries, Polycab,
so
with electricians.
It's upskilling the talent and getting them better jobs.
Upskilling and product. What we found is product and service in this is very closely linked.
Very nice.
So that's
yeah. Thank you. And Brigadier Garu, the next thing is going to the topic of scaling in Bharat. Right, you've done a phenomenal job with the resources that you have. I mean, yours is really a movement, right? I mean, people come and walk with you in the villages. Can you talk about what are those walks and how do you get these volunteers? I know you work with very small budget, but your impact is out of proportion to the budgets that you work with. So how did you go about doing? Because like Raju Garu also mentioned this morning that the best thing to happen is where the community gets involved, where they take ownership, and which has happened in your case. So how did that happen? And could you please give us some insights on what we could learn from that? Yeah.
Thanks for asking this question, but I don't think I have a specific answer. it's so difficult to predict or manage human behavior. When I retired, as I mentioned, I thought we'll start an organization and started with three major decisions. One is that I will not earn money. The second thing is that I will not use my first 60 years knowledge. I'll become zero as a KG student and start learning again. And the third thing is the group has to work voluntarily, no budgets, no praise, no claps. They just work for others. The three decisions we made. It was in 2005, my dear friends. Today I am here thanks to Deshpande Foundation that you appreciated the values we have created over a period of time. We evolved. There was no plan. In fact, Palestine has no mission, no objective, no resources, no employees, no accountability. We just evolved. And therefore, we have no failures, only success. The fact that you have called me here and talking about Palestine is a great success for us. Otherwise, what are we?
Your success is much more than us calling you. We are thankful that you made time for us. Yeah.
So we believe in the creativity, as I mentioned earlier, in the villages. So we walk. You know, why should any unknown person share things with you? What is that you can offer to him which appeals to him? All these are questions, but we never discuss this. We just go and try hard to get accepted by them, that they are willing to share with you. Now, that onus of getting accepted is with us, not with them.
So what are these walks? I mean, maybe audience can benefit. What is this walk? The Palestine walks. Yeah.
Walk is going and meeting people, simple. You know,
so you go as a group of people, and how many days do you walk in a village across? Like it's like a padayatra.
Funny, we don't plan. The problem is, you know, in the formal system, everything has to be planned, structured, aims, goals. I lived in the same organization, a little more strict organization, army. But I said, can we do everything free to you? We want to go and learn a place, let's say 50 kilometers route we choose in the geography. And we'll say, okay, all of you meet that day. Whoever wants to come, we put on the registration online. And when they come there, we say, okay, now there are 4 gurus to you. One guru is nature. Other guru is people living in the nature. The third one is Koyatri, who came all the way leaving their comfort zone. And fourth guru is yourself. Now learn from these 4 people by listening. Listening, learning by listening, not by telling them, not by telling what they don't know. No, that's not the way. Entire yatra only we learn by listening and sharing. But we will not talk about our knowledge. And the first condition for Sodha Yatra is, before you take a first step in the yatra, make yourself zero or unlearn as much as possible. And that's the way, everything which comes on the way is a learning for us. Like yesterday, I was in the international conference on grassroots. Someone said there's lots of animals coming into the fields and spoiling the crops. He says, Rajasthani farmer was telling, sir, I use the human hair and threw it in the field. And when the animal comes to eat, this hair travels. They stop coming to my field, sir.
Nice.
Look at the way. Come, clap. Must clap the village knowledge. And all the technology we see doesn't work. And now the human hair has got higher market value now in that area. Everybody wants it.
Nice.
So how do you get this to know unless you go and talk to them? And talk to them and just be able to share. So very simply, it is human-to-human connection. It's not role. Most of us play roles in our life, not humans. We believe that if you are a human, you play the role. If you are a role, you may not play the human. So in these yatras, all of us go, irrespective of age. Our group age starts from 78 to 7 years. Everybody comes, ladies, gents, everybody. They come as humans, not as this. And the tremendous bonding. Together we learn, together we share, together we interact. And at the end of the day, we carry lots of wonderful memories. And these synthesize when you go back to the work, they synthesize and see how such knowledge can be leveraged for the betterment of society. So we have so many methods we started. We started scouting is the one we find them. Then documentation is the biggest problem. Because without documentation, we cannot connect them to the formal system. And they need a lot of entitlements in formal system. The documentation is important. Our documentation in the formal system is parallel, as concurrent I mean. You start a project, then blah, 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 till the results is concurrent. So documentation is not an issue in the formal system. But there, they have nothing. बोल कैसे किया इसे सर सामने आगे है see and write down. It's a retrospective documentation. It's so difficult. And to make it acceptable to formal system is much more difficult. So our volunteers do a lot of work, and how do? They go and sit at the innovator's house for 3-4 days to understand how he did all these things, how did the journey of innovation was there, and write authentically. So, and then of course lots of other things we do. We don't take funds. Don't give funds. We run internships but don't give certificates. We don't do anything. Gandhiji said education is an ornament. He said learn and go. And if that is acceptable to you, please come. So it's going on. What's happening is the volunteers keep coming. And why are they coming? We don't know. Shodha Yatras people have done. We did 51. There's somebody who has done 32 Yatras. Wow. Of course, not me. And why are they coming 32 times? I do not know. I don't answer.
Wow.
But they keep
it's a rage actually. Shodha Yatras is a rage among the youth. Like so many of the people that I know went in the Shodha Yatras. The purpose of Shodha Yatra is you go to the rural areas, to the villages to figure out the innovations there. The belief is there are a lot of innovators, they're figuring out solutions to their problems, but it is constrained to that village. So sir's activity is how do I take that innovation? They're willing to share that innovation. They don't even know that it's innovative, right? How do you take that innovation and then spread it to other villages so that so many more people can benefit out of it? But the first thing is how do you go to these villages to get that innovation? And what will motivate people to go to these villages? But sir has really tapped into the youth, but also happy to learn that, I mean, people from all ages come with you. People who went there, actually I keep getting I'm in the mailing list, so I keep getting that. I really wanted to go, but somehow or the other I could not. But my friends who have gone there, they shared such a, I mean, for them it was such a awakening experience. Like sir said, they don't plan, they just go, they stay in villagers' house. They use their bathrooms. Like girls who went on the Shodha Yatra, they came back and said, but it's completely different, like using a bathroom which is not a bathroom, right? In a village, things like that. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, so many more people want to come
we wait
with
for
sir.
you, Manish. Whenever you come, we'll keep waiting for you. One day you'll come.
Absolutely.
Just little addition.
Yeah, sure.
See, Shodha Yatra is a yatra to unlock the hidden knowledge of the people. And firstly, unlocking comes only when you know there's something is there. And you know hidden because you respect that there is a knowledge, then it happens. And it's a frugal life. Totally, you live like them, the villagers. And no expectations and nothing will be given to you. Frugal life. And I've not heard any complaints in the 51 yatras. And the food will come when we don't know. It will come, that is assured. And still people will come there. It's amazing, you know, the yatris display a highest level of human traits with unknown people. And together, we also display amazing respect to the villagers and try to get accepted by them in 3 days. It's a challenge, but all of us do, we smile without complaint. Why it happens? I don't do any discipline, I don't do any lectures, I don't even bully anybody, I just stay there along with them, I learn along with them. It just happens. I think all of us have that goodness in us. How it comes out is the challenges we have. When it comes out, I think anybody can do Shodha Yatra like ours. And after having identified the knowledge, we try to connect them with the formal system or help them whatever they want to, conceptual stage or a prototype stage or a final selling stage. All connectivities we try to give, all voluntarily. When patenting we do, to the patent lawyers, we get some funds for them. Connect with design, volunteers, design engineers, volunteers, connect them so that their innovation can be re-engineered and made optimized. All these things go on without money, without organization, just a goodwill and a passion to do something for society. And it's happening.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, yeah. Gayatri, so you have actually a large organization with 100 centers. How many employees is that? And what scale, like what budgets and, right, I mean, what challenges also you're facing with such a large organization? Just that is only the Sambhav part of it. Then you have the LaborNet part, but let's focus on the Sambhav part, yeah.
So I think coming after Brigadier, I want
the
to
mic
tell you
close.
that I actually failed to do what you did. About 30 years back, I tried to live in a village for 3 years, and it's the very toilet and the water which actually drew me out. I realized I was just thinking how much more noble you could be. I just couldn't succeed. After 3 years, I told myself that life is not for me. I was frustrated and I was very, very depressed. But I'll answer, so I have great, immense respect for what you do. But want to tell you that it didn't work for me. Yeah, Sambhav has about 700 employees. Wow. We decided that everything we need to do, we have to build the capacity of the field worker. Some of the, I mean, we call it techniques, but some of the philosophy is very similar. They have to be in the field. They have to understand the community and then start delivering. We have today, I mean, that was the question you asked, how many employees that we have. So we've divided it into what we call...
what scale, I mean, budgets and etc. if you are happy to share, but yeah.
Sure. Sambhav is about 100 crores annual grant today.
Wow.
So the way we've tried to do it is, there is the field organization. So each vertical has its own set of people. And then we have what we call capability building. So we have central to support teams, which looks as, for example, training. So we're actively looking at something called experiential learning. So as they learn, can they start earning? So that means within 2 weeks of learning, because many of our trades are hard trades, we feel there is a possibility for them to start earning. So I'll give you a non-hard trade example. Like a lot of people, young people today will say, I want to do data analytics, I want to do frontline software. Actually, they don't have even access to computers. So one of the first things we are trying to teach them is actually typing. So with typing, are they outsourced work that they can do? Similarly, they are very fascinated by visualization. So Power BI gives you simple visualization. So we want to break this thing that, you know, what is it that they can enter the market with, right? So they have the skills. Otherwise, they're pitted against the engineers of premier colleges, and the wage difference looks very huge. So I think that's the kind of thing that we're doing. Of course, we've been doing this a little longer with sales and beauty and plumbers, etc. But that's what we're attempting to do.
Thank you, Gayatri. I mean, I took a moment to sink that in. You said 100 crores. 100 crore grant every year. How is it, I mean, to raise 100 crores every year? Could you throw some light on that?
Pasina chhut jata hai. Yeah, the best is, I think, so it is very difficult. I think the largest problem that I face is the lack of continuity. So if a donor decides they will back out of there, do we remain in that community or not? So I think that's been our biggest struggle. What happens when the funds are not there? Second, I think the struggle is, even in the not-for-profit, a lot of people are seeing it as a career. So how do we give them a career path? How do we ensure that they have a growth path? And will it be here or will it be in the CSR? So we're looking at what can we give them as they have to move away from us. Because today the living standards require for them to be paid. Then, and I think civil society organizations, NGOs, employ a large number of people. So it is for us to protect their livelihood, to see to it that they are able to have a career there. Having passion and career, and that I think is the biggest tension that, that this entire sector faces.
Thank you, Gayatri. The last, yeah, go ahead.
Scaling of information, scaling of grassroots innovations?
Yeah, I was just coming to that. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Yeah, so what are your thoughts on scaling the grassroots innovations?
Firstly, grassroots innovations come from people, not software, not hardware, but hardware. They innovate hardware, H-E-A-R-T-W-A-R,
Okay.
hardware.
Hardware.
So they solve problems by volunteerism, and the provocation for them is samvedana, the feeling others' pain the way they feel it. Call it samvedana. Don't call empathy. Empathy is not a very good word. Samvedana is a good word. So they do it on their own, but they do not know what to do with it. So they only enjoy if they are having a problem, or give it to people around them who are suffering with the problem. And that's all, they stop there. But it is us, we understand that this problem exists across the country, maybe 6.5 lakh villages, maybe the world. How this wonderful solution can be utilized by others. That's a challenge we have. So we have to take the responsibility of, I don't use the word scaling, I use the word dissemination. Dissemination is reaching the people and using it, getting a benefit out of it is dissemination. So that's what we have to do. We try to build our own voluntary organizations, like starting from magazine to exhibitions. Every week we conduct exhibition where we get innovators come there and they display the innovation. They also get to know what others are doing, what is the real needs of the people. Some exposure to them happens. Almost every week we do one exhibition somewhere or other. And then going on with the webinars and taking them to national international exhibitions. Then Malaysian is also our discovery. I took him to Central Silk Board. Satyavati IAS was secretary. She was very happy. He says, Malaysian Garu, I'll get it done, this and that, because it belongs to women of weavers. 1 year, nothing happened. Every week I used to remind her. And after 1 year, he got a President of India award, which we applied to National Innovation Foundation. So I've sent that document to her. Next day, she ordered 50 machines, ASU machines. Then I realized that the formal system understands only awards or patents, the language which they understand, not by making them stand in front of somebody, they're not impressed by that. Then we focused on awards. Until today, all the volunteers have their efforts. We have founded more than 800 innovations in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and more than 1,000 farm practices we have recorded, all original. Then there are 3 Padma Shris, there are 13 Rashtrapati Awards, 86 patents. There are 86 patents. Then all award regional, Amazing Indian, 2 awards, Samsung 18, Hall of Fame, name it everywhere, Raitunesam 13, Sakshi Awards 5. All volunteers keep writing, and the significant knowledge they displayed and the impact they made to society is acknowledged by the formal system. So all this also giving visibility to them. Now, what do we scale actually is the information or the product. And because these people work in the nature, it is contextually specific. It has to be decentralized. It has interconnectivity with the surroundings. And such kind of things, when the diversity of our country is almost 126 agri-zones, what is scaling up of grassroots innovations? This has to be debated. We understood that the information that is existing, information is possible to solve the problem we are facing is more important. That should go to the people fastest in their languages. So they understand that this problem can be solved by some method. Now then, one of you, those who are sitting there may say, okay, let me try, because it can be solved. So that kind of a thing startup, maybe every innovation we make in the villages, if we disseminate it in the typical languages to all the country people, there will be innovators coming up in every village over a period of time and trying to solve the problems. This I call it scaling of information, but mass manufacture is out for grassroots innovations. It doesn't work at all. Nature is customized, technology standardized. We cannot do this. And secondly, this also has a negative impact on the villages, is that extractive economies keep taking away from the farmers. But if you have local innovation, extractive economies, their effect is less. And lastly, see, we have to, what is the aim of technology in the agriculture? It's not money, it is food. Who will give you food? In the future, who will give you food? Where are the farmers? What are you doing for them? Are we allowing them to think what they want to do it, or we tell them that I'll tell you, you do it? There won't be any farmers. Any innovation in Palestinian view is that we have to see whether the food is going to be available or not. with the innovation or a technology you put it. If that affects the food, I think all our efforts will not be very useful for the future. Kindly, my request is that, see that. And lastly, Pallisujana believes that cities are made by humans and villages are made by God. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. We have the last 1 minute. Gayatri, could you throw some light on the impact that Sambhav does? Like how many people does it train and place every year, or other, like, yeah, on this?
So we have a capacity of about 50,000 young people who come through our training centers. But we also work in colleges and ITS, which are pretty much next to the centers, and that gives us another about 50,000. So about a lakh per annum is the capacity that we are dealing with today.
And how many of them like get into the jobs?
Now that is something that we've been struggling with. So about 50% of them clearly go into work paths.
Wow, that is 50,000 a year. That's a huge
there's
number.
another group of them which really wants to do higher education. So we're trying to figure out how work integrated models are coming. And today with the national education policy, it's possible to do it. So many of them want graduation. So Tata Institute of Sciences, for example, has a work integrated education module. Like that, there are many universities which will, it's already there, but I think we need to integrate it so the learning and earning happen together. Most of them don't see graduation is an important social symbol for them. And therefore, I think it is for us to bring vocation and graduation together and see to it they're in a correct path.
That's a very good point. Thank you very much. I deliberately didn't leave time for Q&A because both of them are going to be here. I really wanted to throw light on their story, for which 40 minutes is not sufficient. There's a lot more. It's a lot of inspiring work that both of them are doing. So I hope you catch up with them during the day for your personal questions. Thank you so much.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Requesting everybody to put your hands together. What a fabulous conversation. We spoke about earning, learning, food, that covers everything. Sir and ma'am, request you to please stay back for a minute, because the least we could do is felicitate our panelists. And for that, I would like to invite on stage Mr. N.C. Murthy, founder and CEO of Quinton Services, and more important, an ardent supporter of Deshpande Foundation and Kakatiya Sandbox. Absolute privilege to have you here. So a lot of people might be guessing, why are we presenting a certificate to our panelists? But to all our panelists who come here and contribute towards development dialogue, we plant a sapling on their name in Hanamkonda, and that certificate has a little QR code using which they can scan and see the growth and progress of their tree forever. So when we talk about a sustainable present gift, I don't think there could be anything better than that. Thank you so much. So to all the students sitting there, at that age, if you can jump, I think that should be your goal. Congratulations. Thank you so much, Chief. Lovely having you here. Now, while we talk about bringing about change, touching lives of people, at DD, what we are able to do is also invite on stage people who have gone through a certain transformation in the last 4 or 5 years. Because this is not a concept anymore. We are also able to present people who have undergone that change and are present here to talk about that. So, the next segment is called Dreams Have No Boundaries. And as part of that, I would like to invite on stage Ms. Vaishnavi Munuguri, Sales Associate Lead Engineer. Her resilience is her story, and we will get to know more about that. She's from Jagtial, a graduate from NSV Divri College, who has overcome personal challenges, demonstrating unbelievable strength and perseverance. Brought up by a single mother, a mother who played the role of a pillar of support while working tirelessly in the farms as a daily wage job. And that did not stop her from providing Vaishnavi the kind of education that should allow her to grow and be present here to talk about her story. Let me not stand between you and Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi, aja, stage is all yours.
Hello everyone, good morning. I want to share my story. My name is Vaishnavi. I grew up in a small town, raised by my mother, a single parent. After my parents divorced when I was 6 years old, life was so hard for us. People often said to me, why are you spend money on girl education? But my mother never let those words define us. She always believed that dreams have no boundaries. And she always told me, you can become anything you want to be, no matter what others say. Her unwavering belief in me is my foundation. As a teenager, I struggled. I doubted myself, lacked focus. The constant judgment from the people made me feel trapped. And my grades were average. I feel like I don't have a direction in life. But everything changed after I joined in Kakatiya Sandbox. My mother encouraged me to give it a try. While I was not expect that much, but it turned into a great turning point in my life. The first few days were very tough. I didn't feel I belonged, but slowly I see the possibilities. The KS program opened the doors to the world where dreams have no boundaries. And learning new skills. I developed in communication, team management, and I met incredible mentors who saw my potential and motivate me to aim higher. Hands-on experience. I worked in real-world project that showed me how far I go. Life skills. I learned time management, discipline, especially replacing my doubts with determination. For the first time, I realized that the limits I had was not real. With the right support and hard work, the people started noticing me. The confidence I gained in Kakatiya Sandbox propelled me forward. After the program, I got an internship in T-Hub, an innovation center in Hyderabad. I began as a junior lead engineer, but I worked hard. I took every opportunity to prove myself and learned quickly, and my ideas were valued. I grew up as a leadership role. At 20, I promoted as a lead engineer, a milestone I never expected for myself. It's not about the title, it's all about the breaking boundaries, once I thought unbreakable. My journey is a testament to the belief that the dreams have no boundaries when it is fueled with passion, persistence, and support. Looking back, I deeply thanks to my mother's strength, the opportunity in Kakatiya Sandbox, and my own determination to overcome every challenge. And my story is proof that whether it's social judgment or self-doubt can never stop you when you believe in your dreams. And last but not the least, I thank to all my trainers, Sirisha ma'am, Charan sir, Radhika ma'am, and Rakshita ma'am. And a very special thanks to Babai, always there for me and support me in my bad situation. My message to you, dreams have no boundaries. Every girl dream are valid and Every parent's investment in her education is priceless. Let's make the world where the dreams have no limits. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much, Vaishnavi. Vaishnavi is also going to be using this platform to thank the person who made all of this possible. So, go ahead.
I want to give one small gift to my mother with my savings of. My mother is coming.
Pillow.
She's coming.
Right. So, Vaishnavi has actually kept her first salary aside, and she bought a sari and a gold ring for her mother. And
Thank you for giving this wonderful opportunity, Kakatiya Sandbox. Thank you.
congratulations. Thank you so much, Amma. They say the fruits never fall far away from the tree. So I'm pretty sure. You want me to ask them to wait? Vaishnavi? Vaishnavi? Obviously, it's a very emotional moment for Vaishnavi and for everybody who's seeing this happen. And now that she has already said thank you to one pillar, there is another pillar that she spoke about, the Deshpande Foundation, the way it has managed to skill her to come stand here and talk about her journey. And to felicitate Vaishnavi, I would like to invite on stage Mr. P.N. Naik, the CEO of Deshpande Skilling. Who else could we have on stage to do this? Could I request everybody to please stand up once and put your hands together? Because these are the success stories that we want to create more in numbers. And if we intend to create more of these success stories, we need more Vaishnavis. And for more Vaishnavis, we need more of those mama darlings to be around. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, the students who go through our programs, they're sponsored by somebody or the other. And for Vaishnavi, I need to thank the Kannuri family. So Vaishnavi was sponsored by the Kannuri family. So thanks to the Kannuri family for supporting us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Okay. Back to the real world, which is a lot more transactional, which does not work on emotions. But the last 5 minutes, I think that has to be the highlight of what we could actually experience in development dialogues. Moving on, now. Now, if we heard Vaishnavi speak, she spoke about how education has managed to change her destiny. How because of the investment in her education, she is now able to create a future for herself. And maybe in her path, she will help create a lot of future for a lot of people around her. So now for the next panel, the focus is going to be about the Edu Skill Multiplier. How do we harness partnership to scale education and skilling across Bharat? People talk about the demographic dividend. We say our population is our strength. But imagine having a population which is unskilled. Imagine having a population which lacks education, how do we engage them? How do we bring them out of the social media rut? That is where this conversation is going to happen. And as moderator of this panel, we have Mr. Arun Nathan, partner, Sattva Consulting. Could we please have you on stage, sir? Arun Nathan is the non-profit advisory lead at Sattva Consulting, specializing in strategy alignment for non-profit organizations. With over 2 decades of experience across South Asia and Africa, he has held leadership roles in CSR and sustainability for companies like L&T, Finance, Lifestyle International, and IDFC. Absolute pleasure to have you here, Chief. Thank you, sir. Please. I would also take the liberty of inviting the panel for you, and I'll give the controls to you for the next 30 minutes so that you are able to run the show. We also have Ms. Alka Singh, Head of Partnerships, Educate Girls. She's a leader in education policy, serving as Head of Policy and Strategic Partnerships at Educate Girls. She drives initiatives for marginalized girls' education in India. Previously at UNDP, she worked on decentralized planning to improve human development. Alka excels in strategic partnerships and grassroots interventions, advancing gender equity and community empowerment. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Lovely having you here. Next up, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Shrikant Sinha. His stories are so interesting. The way he has scaled things up through his journey is something that all of us will treasure. Chief Executive Officer at Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge Task. Presently the CEO of a leading non-profit organization, champion of the cause of collaborative CSR, leader in tech for good. One more. Allow me. Right? Advocate of inclusive India with 30 plus years of consistent multicultural global experience. Fabulous. Lovely having you here, sir. And we also have Professor V. Ram Gopal Rao, Group Vice Chancellor for BITS Pilani. Absolute pleasure having you here, sir. A distinguished academic and innovator in nanotechnology and semiconductor devices, former director of IIT Delhi and a professor at IIT Bombay. He has made significant contributions to nanoelectronics with over 500 research publications. That is a stellar panel, and we are ready with a pen and paper to make notes of all that we discuss here. So, Mr. Arun Nathan, stage is all yours. Check. 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 Check.
Super. Thank you very much, and really glad to be here. I don't think there would have been a better time to come and do this panel than after what we've heard of Vaishnavi and the story that we heard. I think for a lot of us in the non-profit sector, where there are multiple things happening, things are not linear, there are struggles, there are many times when you don't get the results. I think the stories of Vaishnavis keep motivating us. So I just want to kind of differ and say this is as real as it gets, right? And I think in this panel, what we are trying to also explore is how do we take this up from a 1 to a million and million to millions, right? And I think that's broadly what we would like to explore here. I know we've got about 40 minutes, and we've got a stellar panel here. So one, we will kind of go through and have a few questions, and we'll kind of discuss that. I also want to make sure that we've got some time available for a lot of our participants here, because this is really great to hear from stalwarts from the space. So do kind of keep your questions ready in case you have questions for the panel. So before we really kind of get into the conversation of partnerships, I wanted to just quickly share with you a quick anecdote and an experience that I had. So there was a time when early in my career, I thought scale is essentially moving from a state to national and then national to international. So that was my career journey, and so I thought moving from India to starting to work globally is a great idea. And that was the time that I started working in a country like Zambia, where we were working on sexual and reproductive health and HIV and so on. And I was just sharing with Gayatri that I went there and we were trying to put together a country strategy. We figured out that the total population of Zambia was 20 million, right? And the daily ridership on Delhi Metro is 4.5 million, right? So it's just in one state, one metro, one day, right? If you put the ridership for 5 days, it gets to the size of a country. So that's the scale that we are talking about here. Today on the panel, we've got a range of leaders here. So we've got Professor Rao, who represents academia, higher education and research. We've got Alka. Alka represents the non-profit Educate Girls, which works with millions of girls from a non-profit angle. And we've got Shrikant, who earlier represented Apex industry body, but now currently represents the government here. So we've got the state, the academia, and the civil society are represented here. So let me start with the first question, right? So the larger theme of the conversation is unlocking scale. So question number one, in your journey, what is your imagination of scale? And how does the concept of partnership fit in? And I'd like to start with Alka, and then we can move on to the other panelists.
Firstly, I must say it's awesome to be here, and I so much wanted to get on the dais the way Brigadier did. Maybe next time. Having said that, as the name suggests, Educate Girls is all about, I mean, when we were founded in 2007, we wanted to see that every single girl in India should be in school and studying. And we started it from Rajasthan. And in Rajasthan, problem was mostly in Thar, wherein distances are a problem, access is a problem. And as we moved to other states, we actually did in our mind the very same thing, Arun, that maybe from 10 it could be 20 and then maybe 10,000 and a lakh. But Bihar was a very different situation altogether. So it isn't like creating a formula that works everywhere. India is diverse, and then scale would also need a lot of contextualization. So it's very different imagining state in a very diverse world in a diverse country like ours. But yeah, I said, in 2007, we wanted every single girl to be in school, and that was elementary schooling. And in 15 years, we managed to get about 18 lakh girls back into school and stay there studying. So invested in them coming back to school and their learning outcomes, so they start enjoying and engaging with the learning. Now in 2021, we realized that scale's not just about increasing number, the way we were initially thinking, that let's see that every single girl child's back into school. We realized that the girls we had helped coming back into school, for them also, their life journey, their path, where is that progressing? So after 8th, many girls would drop out because distances become a problem, because lack of confidence in education, because skills are still not imparted, and many of them do not know that after I complete my school education, what am I going to be? I think that was a question for many of us as well. We were privileged, as ma'am was saying, to kind of keep on till we really realize what's there in store for me. But for many, hundreds and thousands, I must say, in remoter areas, because they do not have confidence, they would end up either taking unpaid care work or migrate to nearby town and start working. So this very gap is something we have started working from 2021, which is more of an education skill combination, and seeing that career pathway or that vision for life is there built into youth. When we talk about scale again, with that problem, we started in the very same villages where we were working, but we kind of tried looking at where is this problem at policy level. And then there is a SDG dedicated to NEET, which is not in education, employment or training, 15 to 29, who are nowhere into education, employment or any sort of training, meaning nowhere in the mainstream life, and imagine they're youth of India. And when we were looking at MOSPI data, the number for only females who are 15 to 29 and are categorized as NEET by MOSPI are about 9.1 crores in the country right now as we speak. So that's the scale we should think of if we are really wanting to solve the problem. But reaching 9.1 crore is nothing that Educate Girls can do alone. It's nothing that one single organization can do alone. And so we looked for partnerships. And partnerships for us ranges from policies till grassroots organization, as we see. In between our knowledge partners, in between our mentors who have helped us design right strategies to kind of reach them. Shall I come again or talk more about the program?
I'll come to you in terms of the details, but
Sure.
it's fascinating to hear that you're working on an issue relating to girls, and the moment you hear 18 lakhs or 19 lakhs, that in itself is a huge number. And then you put a denominator to it suddenly, and the numerator looks small, and the context of partnership. This is fascinating to hear. Srikanth, how about you? Your imagination of scale, and how does partnership fit in?
Sure. Are you able to hear me? I think the mic's not working properly. Yeah, thanks. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor for me to be here amongst all the August gathering today. Thank you, Kakatiya Sandbox, for providing me with the opportunity to share some of my thoughts. For me, innovation today, if you ask me, right, my heroine is this 11 years old girl from a rural village in Telangana. And what she has done is something brilliant. She has taken 2 sticks, tied them on one end with a string, created a wedge in between, which she keeps over a bucket, which is higher than the 3 bhagwanas or the utensils she keeps underneath it. In the evening, when her parents come back from the farm or the garden with the lemons, all she does is she rolls it down. Right? Now, can this be scaled? No. But can it be replicated? Definitely yes. Right? So, scaling is one method, second is replication. And that's where you are able to reach to various numbers. Talking about task itself, and of course, if I talk about NASSCOM Foundation, where I was the CEO earlier, I think it was all about scale itself. We were talking about making India digitally literate. We had to work with partners. I think there's this African proverb that says, if you want to walk fast, you walk alone. But if you want to walk long, partner with people. And that's the entire thing where partnership comes into picture. Be it when we were working together, for the Indian Public Libraries movement, we got this grant from our partner organization, Gates Foundation, but ensuring that majority of the libraries, right, in India are able to benefit from this program, we had to partner with multiple organizations, including the organization where you were working in those days. So definitely partnership plays a key part. If I talk about task now, we were called as JKC earlier, Jawaharlal Nehru Knowledge Centers, and later on in 2014, there was a survey that was conducted here in Telangana after bifurcation with 1,400 companies where they realized less than 10% locals were employed, and the people who were employed were not matching up to the expectations of the industry. So the scale was 90% of the remaining population who had to be given an opportunity, especially the underserved in the districts. Before I joined, it was 70% city or urban population that used to be getting trained and 30% of district. Today we have reversed the entire thing. And that is where scale is. Today we work with 761 colleges across Telangana. So far we have skilled 1 million youth of Telangana. In Telangana, when I talk about all these students that are there, I think that is scale. For us, what is the problem to be solved? How do you solve it? And at what scale? And how partners play a part. Coming to partnerships, I think we could have never done it alone. We just have about 14 regional centers, but it is the 761 colleges, which are our partner colleges, which also become my centers, right? Plus, we work with 80 plus institutions and corporates like the Microsofts of the world, the NVIDIAs of the world, and everyone else, where we offer 110 plus programs to these 761 colleges. And that's another dimension of scale. where we are able to leverage on our partners, knowledge, their resources, their IPs, etc., and take it across the youth, across Telangana, so that they can benefit from it. Only thing we realized is, since we are into employability, skilling anyone in the final year doesn't work. It's more like eating a 500 mg capsule before you go for your medical examination, right? So we started skilling right from the first year itself, because that's where, in a laddered approach, you can skill a person and ensure that by the time he or she completes their graduation, they are already ready for the job market. And that is where partnerships play a key role in ensuring that we are able to meet the large numbers or the scale of the youth of Telangana and meet their aspirations.
So this is wonderful to hear. And here we are talking about the state. Again, the denominators, like what Alka was saying, significantly high. And the very interesting point that I picked up from what you mentioned is, you couldn't have done it alone at the kind of scale that you're talking about. You also did mention about the idea of scale not just being the only parameter. I remember that's what even Alka mentioned, saying the numbers alone don't matter, but you also need to be able to look at the impact. Professor Rao, you represent higher education, you lead a very premier organization in the education space. What is your imagination of scale?
Thank you. In fact, I'm very happy to be here. Thanks to Dr. Raju Reddy for inviting me here. I'm also happy to meet with so many people, in this town, and it's very nice, pleasant experience. I come from another place in Telangana called Kolhapur, so I go back there and do some of this. I think when it comes to scale, right? On my right is the government, on my left is an NGO kind of an organization, right? And I am a private kind of a thing. So if you look at it in the country in general, the government systems, though the funds and other things are sometimes available, but execution is a problem in general, right? With the NGOs, the problem is the scale, right? Because the financial resources, everything will eventually come in the way. And the private systems in India typically suffer from trust issues, right? So therefore, I think the combination is to put all of these together, all of us to work together to achieve the scale. When you look at higher education, right, if you look at the numbers today in India, in schools, we have about 250 million students today in Indian school system, first standard to 12th standard. Look at the higher educational institutions, we have about 43 million students. So now from 250 million to 43 million, the rest, over 200 million students, never even get to go to those colleges. Our gross enrollment ratio in higher education today is just about 27%, meaning 18 to 23-year-old students, who need to be in the university. I think we only get about 1 in 4 of them. Where do all the rest go? I think the rest need to be employable, rest need to be provided skills. I think, even what Kakatiya Sandbox is doing, some of the stories that I heard today are very, emotional, and these are the kinds of things that we need to do, but we need to scale them up, right? So how do we scale them up? That is where higher educational institutions have a role to play, right? Institutions like BITS Pilani, for example, how many students we admit? We admit about 3,500 students every year. How many students the IITs admit? 23 IITs together this year will admit about 17,000 students, right? So that's about 20,000 students who go to, BITS Pilani or IIT kind of institutions. Now you add all the NITs and other things, maybe about 50,000, 60,000 kind of students. And if you look at it, these higher educational systems haven't scaled in India. The reason why they haven't scaled in India, the quality educational institutions, is because of lack of a financial model, right? Government institutions are 90% dependent on Government of India for funding. And in a country where you have hunger a problem, you have many other problems, education can never be a top priority. Education, higher education particularly, will be below all of those other kind of priorities. And so therefore, government would never have enough money to scale these institutions. So very few people can aspire, to go to these institutions. And as a result, the exclusivity is what makes these institutions, stand apart and be counted among the best and all of that. Even in BITS Pilani, the same problem occurs. How much, if tuition fee is the only way you can run an institution, right? How much of tuition fee can you charge in a country where the per capita income is, $2,500 kind of a thing? In such a country, how much of quality education you can provide completely dependent on the tuition fee. I think we need to build a financial model in place if you want to ever achieve scale for the higher educational institutions. Look at US, right? Any, large university in the US would be about 30 to 40,000 students, right? Whereas Indian institutions are 1/10 compared to a large US university. In US, they have found a financial model. They have found this endowment kind of models. They have found philanthropy. They have a part of tuition fee. They have research, which is also contributing to revenues. I think that kind of a diversified financial model we need to develop now for this institution if we ever want to achieve scale and provide a training which will make these children coming out of these institutions employable. Unless we put in place that financial model, I think, 1% of students getting trained is in these institutions, 99%, struggling to develop a skill or find a job. I think this country will never really, reach the kind of levels that we would like to see in our lifetime. So.
Good. So, Professor Rao, as you are speaking, clearly the size again seems to be pretty large. The target audience seems to be large. The current size of the infra that services them is the limiting factor. Are you also alluding to the fact that if you're really looking at scaling it up from a partnership standpoint, ensuring enough resources that come into fueling this is the way to go? Is that what do you think?
I think, some of it can be achieved through policies. My biggest problem with the government of India is the policy support for endowment funds, right? Today, for BITS Pilani kind of an institution, if I want to create $1 billion endowment like what, Stanford's, MITs have, I'm not even allowed to do that. The tax people will come and, raid you if they know that BITS Pilani has raised this kind of money, all our tax incentives, everything will be taken away. Because for BITS Pilani kind of institutions are not for profit, right? In a not for profit organization, the government rules mandate that whatever you earn in a year, 85% of it needs to be spent in that year. So if you are earning more than what you require as expenditure, the taxmen will come and will create problems for you. How do you ever create endowment funds? So in government systems again, when we go to US, from here actually tonight I am going to US. Why am I going to US? Because the tax laws there are very conducive to philanthropy. Right? In many of those places now, either you create foundations and do the causes that are dear to you, or you give money to government, right? If I have the choice between creating a foundation and doing things which I want to do rather than paying money to, Trump, the choices are very natural. In India, it's not the case. In India, the tax laws are not encouraging philanthropy, even the inheritance kind of a thing, right? Whatever I earn, I can transfer everything to my children and government wouldn't bother about it. Whereas in the US, the moment you want to pass on your wealth to children, the government will interfere and take away a large chunk of it. So that's the reason I think we need to have policies in this country which encourage philanthropy. Whatever philanthropy that we used to see before independence, all of that is just vanishing right now. Everybody is keen to accumulate more and more wealth, pass it on to their next generation. If one person in the family does well, the next 10 generations, you don't have to do anything about it kind of a thing. I think, we need to encourage philanthropy through more conducive policies, in this country. Otherwise, scaling higher education, scaling skill development programs for private endowments to come in. There may be one Raju Reddy's, one Deshpande's, but they are all a minority, right? How many people, in our communities who are rich are actually contributing to philanthropy? Not many really.
It's very interesting that you say this. According to recent estimates, the annual quantum of private philanthropic capital coming into India is about 100,000 crores. On this, about 30,000 from CSR and then from others. the academic institutions seem to be now getting large grants, like for example in news and so on. So I hope that's a trend that kind of also picks up and really take it forward. But I really want to kind of come back on this element of scale, partnership and impact. And I'd love to start with Srikanth here. Srikanth, you mentioned about almost about 700 and change colleges that you're kind of working. In terms of partnerships, if you were to highlight your success, what would that be? What are your key highlights and success leveraging partnerships for you?
Sure. Thanks, Arun. I think for me, the success factors, I think let me also look at how do you make a partnership. I think the first thing for a good partnership is common goals, right? If your goal is something else, you want to go left, the partner wants to go right, and it'll never work. So the first thing is for making partnership successful is you need common goals. Second thing is, having been, in an IT training company earlier on where we were running the world's largest franchisees, etc., trust and trusted is the second thing that comes across, right? So you should be able to trust each other. Third is, and typically what happens is, whenever you look at an MOU for a partnership, you always have a governance committee, right? In 90% of the cases. But you forget what is most important, which is the operations committee, right? You have clauses for arbitration, but you should also have the intent of solving any problem amicably in case if so it arises. Thankfully for us, in this entire year in my career, I don't think I've ever terminated any partner for things. So I think if we talk about success, it is how successfully you can work together to impact lives of people, because that's what we are into, right? Be it as part of NASCOM Foundation or TASK or whatever else you have. I think that's where it's most important. How do you partner together with people with a common goal, walk together, ensure that you are able to impact people's lives? Be it the 761 colleges that I was talking about, be it our partners. For example, SAP today has invested and created 17 labs in our colleges, and it's not only in government colleges, private colleges, government colleges, minority colleges, everywhere. They've established labs where we are actually covering ABAP, HANA, AI, etc., in those things, right? So, and our target was just doing some 100 faculty development programs. We have crossed and made it 300. Number of students also, we have done thrice the actual numbers. If you talk about something like a Hindustan Coca-Cola beverage, right? Out of their volunteering program, they started running programs, and we signed an MOU for 10,000 people to be running, undergoing an employability program, which is campus to corporate kind of a thing. And within 28 days, we covered more than 10,000. This was supposed to be a 2-year MOU. We covered more than 10,000. So immediately, we entered into another MOU, and again happy to report that we have covered those 10,000 also, and this time in a shorter period even. So I think scale is how you're able to work together and achieve that, but that can only happen if it is frictionless. If you have frictions, if you have problems, if you have other kinds of things, then it's a problem. Typically what I have seen is where partnership fails is because we start calling each other vendors, right? That is my vendor who's providing this training. When you're calling someone a vendor, you have distanced yourself from that person. And when you say partner, whether you say partner in crime or whatever, doesn't matter. That's where you say we both have equal skin in the game. And that is when scalability can be achieved. So for us, success is working together, walking the path, ensuring that we are able to impact a large number of lives. Hope that answers.
Absolutely. And it brings us to a very interesting question that I want to ask Alka, right? I have never, ever in a panel on partnerships heard anyone say that that's not the way to go. Everyone says partnership is the way to go. It is like the word sustainability. No one disagrees. right? What is it that people don't talk in panels about partnership? Malab, what is the, because it definitely doesn't seem to be straightforward. Aisa kya hai, which is relating to partnerships, that we should kind of bring in also for the participants to understand the reality of life?
Interesting question, Arun. Thanks so much for that. Before answering that question, responding to it, with partnership, why exactly do we need, given we all in ourselves are universe, right? We want to do end-to-end solutions. We want to see where the problem is and how do we really take it to a logical conclusion in terms of a solution. Now, when I spoke about need, we look at female need, which is 9.1 crore, and then we had put male figures together. It comes to around 13 crore in India right now. And this is 15 to 29 population, which means entire demographic dividend or anything around that has to be invested in this population. And we don't really have long time, given by 2033 or 35, India would start aging. So right now we have largest young population, youth population in the entire world. And if 13 crores is a number, we haven't even, had them opportunity to be in school or in training or any sort of employment, then I think we're already missing the bus. So without partnership, even if I could do that end-to-end solution maybe in 30 years, that's not the time we have. So by 2033, we really have to invest in this age group. Partnership is definitely the key. And to Sir's point on policy, I mean, we gave a good read from NEET's point of view to policies like NEP 2020, skill policy, youth policy, women and child policy, and so all right things were there. And these policies speaking to each other, because when you recommend and when you reach the last mile, it's one gram panchayat, it's one unit which will be implementing all of it. And then we saw this synergy, collaboration, or policies, opportunities speaking to each other was just missed out somewhere in between. It didn't really reach the last mile. And most often, that's the case with us as well, I would say. It's not just with the policy, but we as civil society organization, academia, we all have that complete solution, I think. And I can take, to respond to your question, I can take example of one program which was very ambitious in India called UN Convergence Program, wherein 3 UN agencies came together along with Planning Commission to break the silos and see that, oh, where do our common, things match and how can we align and collaborate and work with the state governments and see we reach the last mile on strengthening governance in the country. I think the first thing was ego of logos, if I may say so. Because again, that confidence of doing it right my way, because we also think through and, bring in lots of experiences of ours, like with Educate Girls, I would say getting more than about almost 1 million or 2 million girls back into school gives us a confidence that yes, we can solve it. And then I bring in partners wherein that trust is there, but then confidence of our could become a baggage at times. So the very thing is right in the beginning, when we are aware of the goal, what's really important is to see who does what. And that mix of specialization that's coming on the table is with great confidence into each other. So the right word would be consortium implementation rather than, the design which is owned by one and then run by one and then partners are just brought into the picture. I think real collaboration is consortium format which should be brought in, if that answers your question.
No, wonderful. I think, and thanks for bringing that element out. Professor Rao, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, that's actually a good question. The partnerships, everybody talks about it, but it doesn't happen in real life. I was thinking about it. Probably, I think a partnership would work if there is a win-win kind of a thing, that each party needs to gain something out of the partnership, or you do something which I am not able to do, though I have resources. I think unless we find those win-win kind of combinations, partnerships tend to remain on paper and then nothing much really, comes out of it. But I was also, looking at the scale, right, when we were talking about it. This country today needs to produce about 1 million jobs per month, looking at our population, looking at how many students are coming out of our institutions and all of that. But who will create these jobs? How do we create these jobs, right? Our industries, are good, running well, but they are not investing in R&D. If you look at the Indian industry, funding for R&D, their own R&D, not even giving it to outsiders, is about 0.2% of the GDP. Indian industry R&D expenditure is 0.2% of GDP. China spends something like 2.7% of GDP on R&D. Their industries spend 2.7% on R&D, right? If in Indian industry, most of these industries are in very traditional businesses, right? Even our top, players are still starting jewelry businesses, right? Because that is what, I can make money and I know the entire business model and I can do all of that. We are not developing new products enough. Hardly any new product or technology that has come out of our industry, which has made big even at the national level or international level. So unless you invest in R&D, right, you will not develop anything new and you will not create any new jobs. Otherwise, you are just, recirculating whatever is available today, and that's not going to, do any good for the country. I think we need to also encourage more and more R&D investments not only by the government of India, even government is not spending money. Our entire R&D budgets by government of India are about 0.3%, right? That's 0.3%. Another 0.3% goes to defense and ISRO, 0.3% of GDP. Whereas if you look at China, China again spends over 3%, on the R&D kind of a thing. If you look at the way Chinese fund their universities, after all, they had the DeepSeek movement, right? I mean, India could not develop DeepSeek. Chinese developed, which is better than ChatGPTs and all of that. How did it happen? What China spends in R&D, right? What China spends on just 2 universities, Tsinghua University, Peking University. You can check on the web page. What China spends on 2 universities is our entire Ministry of Education budget, right? So that's a difference in scale between what China is spending on R&D, what India is spending on R&D. And obviously, you see all of that in the society. You see the kind of manufacturing happening there, the kind of deep technology developments happening there. India is not investing enough in R&D. Either the Indian industry is doing that, nor the Indian government doing that. I think that is hurting us when it comes to job creation, and that leaves, the wide margin between the number of students looking for jobs and the number of jobs available. I would think the startups, the startup founders are our freedom fighters, right? If anything this country has to happen, it has to happen from the startup founders. I have given up on the existing large private industries or the government things. They will continue to run the way nothing can change. If India ever becomes a developed country, it will be on the shoulders of these startup founders.
Correct. Yeah. So I absolutely agree with both of them. I think today we can't just be a nation of job seekers. We have to be a nation of job creators. And that can only happen in 2 ways. One is if we democratize entrepreneurship. And second thing is we have a consortium approach, right? So both what they have said is absolutely right. For example, for the AI thing, what we have started doing is there is hardly any Telugu Wikipedia. There's hardly anything available in Telugu on culture, etc. that is documented. So along with IIIT, Swechha, which is a not-for-profit organization for open source, Ozontel and Meta, we have come up with a project, right, which is more in terms of how do you ensure that our youth actually go using an audio tool, record the culture of Telugu, the state itself, ensure that their food, their habits, their culture, their folklores, everything is captured. It's converted into tokens. The data annotation, etc., is done by the students themselves. I have 25,000 students of Telangana who are working on this project. IIT is bringing in the technology, etc. It moves from annotation to the next level of tokenization, and from there to the models, and then actually implementation. So it's a consortium approach that has come up to solve this kind of problems. And I can cite n number of problems because problems are huge. You can't solve the problem alone. And there is no competition, as rightly Professor said. It has to be a win-win. Then only partnerships work. Thank you. Thank you.
I think that's brilliant. I know we are close to time, so let me just stop here to see if there are any questions from the audience to the esteemed panel here before we conclude.
So check. Any questions from anybody? Oh, yeah.
So we could take, if there are more questions, we could take a few questions together, and then we'll do one round, and then we'll...
This is a question for Professor Ram Gopal. You talked about the policies not being conducive to endowments, yet I believe, I think maybe under your leadership, IIT Delhi has a substantial endowment. Would love to have you shed some light on that, and how are some of the pioneers, some institutions, leading the way, and what type of endowments do they have in place today?
Thank you so much. Your name, please?
So we've got one question here. Are there any other questions? There is a hand.
Sir, the talk today is an eye-opener. Is there a concerted representation to the government of India and the state governments on how to scale up the quality in the higher education institutions? Why? Because as you mentioned, there are very few people like Raju Reddy Garu and the likes of him who are doing this. Government has to do that, and how do we make that happen?
We can take one more. Any other question?
We can start with the response. Yeah. In the meantime, I'll farm for more questions.
I think on the endowment fund, Shashi Reddy is here. He now chairs the IIT Delhi Endowment Fund, Endowment Foundation. We raise money, but today, in Stanford, for example, right, their tuition fee is only about 20% of their total income, right? And whereas in IIT Delhi, the tuition fee is only 6% of the total income, right? Because IIT education is completely free. In BITS Pilani, the tuition fee contribution to revenues is 90%. That's a different. You have one institution like IITs, tuition fee only contributes 7%. Another set of institutions, same level as IITs, but 90% tuition fee, right? The balance is what Stanford kind of institutions have found, where you have endowments which contribute almost 35% every year to running of the Stanford Endowment Fund, Stanford University compared to their budget. I think, that kind of a diversified model we need to develop. Indian government, right now all institutions are raising money, all of us are raising money, but not raising at a level where I can rely on that now to run my institute, right? We all have, somebody comes and funds a building, somebody comes and funds a scholarship, somebody comes and funds some center of excellence, but it's not sufficient, not at a scale where I can now tell the government that, no, you back off now, I can run it with my philanthropy kind of a thing. That I cannot do right now. No institution in India is anywhere close to doing that right now. I think all of these representations are being made to government. In fact, IIT Delhi Endowment Fund, we launched it in President of India in Rashtrapati Bhavan, with President of India chairing that entire committee, with Shashi Reddy's and 20 people in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Then we started working with Ministry of Education. Things are changing, but the problem with government is the secretaries change every 2 years, right? If the same secretary continues a longer period of time, we could have gotten a lot of good things done. But this constant change of bureaucrats, right, who don't have the skin in the game is the biggest challenge. If you ask me, one thing that we need to reform in this country, we need to reform the civil services, the bureaucracy, right? Until you take away these bureaucratic kind of things now, I don't see how India will ever see light of the day. All these policies, all that we talk about, when I find a good secretary, I can go and convince that guy to do something. But then once he is gone, then everything goes back to, I think the bureaucratic reforms are the biggest requirements in this country, and everything needs to start with that, and unfortunately no government is able to take it up, right? So that's another problem. We are all making representations to government. If you look at I have been writing regularly in Times of India, I have been talking about it, I am representing things. Things are changing. It is not that things are not changing, but very slow, right? And nothing changes overnight in India, and I think hopefully, in our lifetime, things will become much better. This whole country, lives on hope. If you take away the hope, there is nothing, right? So I think let's hope that in the next 5 years, 10 years, things will be fine. So.
Thanks, Professor Rao. I know we are at time, so I think it's been a fascinating panel here. Some of the key takeaways that I have is one, the problem that all of us are trying to solve here in a country like India has a huge scale element. And the problem is you can't wait. For the girl who is in a school today for a problem or a hunger, higher education, it comes with urgency. And so we are not able to solve it alone. Need for partnership there, which seems to be an important takeaway. Second is there is an enabling side around policy which really helps. Key partnerships around finances becomes important. There is also qualitative side to which talks about how do we let go to let come and make the partnerships happen, because if we stick to just our agenda, getting the partnerships to work is difficult, but we've seen a lot of that happening. I know that each one of the stakeholders out here has been creating impact, including the startup founders, where there is an immense amount of potential to kind of grow. I also see that some of these take time, and so I just want to end by saying, see, when we got independence in 47, life expectancy at birth in India was about 32. Right? Today, we are at about 67 to 70 for a 1.4 billion people. So the scale is large. A lot of these changes are happening at different levels, and I think it's been a fantastic conversation here. Thank you so much. Please do catch the panelists just in case you've got any doubts off the panel too. Thank you very much.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much, Mr. Arun Nathan, for moderating an absolutely brilliant panel. Thank you so much to all our panelists. And to felicitate them, we have none other than Mr. Anil Godwani, partner Green Era Capital, a very dear friend of Mr. Desh, Ms. Jayashri, and Raju Reddy Garu, one of the very initial supporters. And let me also tell you, the person you see on stage on paper is 60, but in terms of the energy and life he brings to wherever he goes, he's my peer. Right. Thank you so much. Very interesting points. Yesterday we heard Mr. Murli talk about after God, the entrepreneurs are the immortals, and then we also got to hear that entrepreneurs are the freedom fighters. And we also heard talking about how do we democratize entrepreneurship. And one of the most beautiful points that I heard is how do we customize the solution to the geography that we go to. So those were my takeaways, and I'm pretty sure we have exhausted pages taking notes. Thank you so much, Chief. Thank you so much. Fabulous. So now it's time for the next format. So we will have the skilling track, which will happen in the other hall. So all the students who need to go to the skilling track will have to go there. And here we will have the focus group discussions. We will be talking about entrepreneurship and scale, as Manish had mentioned. This is more of a workshop where we're going to put brilliant minds together on a table to come up with solutions to a problem that we will be defining. So all the students, people who need to go to the skilling track, request all of you to go there. Right? And hang on. Before we go there, few announcements to be made. If you scan the card that you have, if you scan the QR of the card that you have, it will give you information related to Kakatiya Sandbox, which you need to know. Second, it will also help you know the location of K-Hub so that you're able to go visit. If you choose to visit, let us know. We have a travel desk which will help you get there, make a visit, and then come back. And it also has the agenda details of what we are here for. But before we go there, we have Mr. Deshpande. You know, when somebody has two Desh in his own name, could only think in favor of the Desh itself. So please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as I invite on stage Mr. Deshpande for his address.
Well, good morning. Before I say anything, let me welcome a very special guest that we have among us today. Somebody who has attended every development dialogue that we have ever had in Nizamabad, and it is Raju's father who is with us here today. You know, Raju gets a lot of credit for Kakatiya Sandbox, but he goofs off in Silicon Valley, and the person who really contributes and makes everything tick is his father. Thank you. Well, you know, I think it's been an interesting morning. We've heard a lot of ideas, you know, from brigadiers, compassion, to scaling, Gayatri's 100 crore organization, and a lot of different ideas of how we can actually bring about a change. We talked about scale and also immersing the changes. So we all see the world and we say, you know, it doesn't have to be this way, it can be better. And you all want to bring about that change. And bringing about that change is what innovation is all about. And so, when you bring about that change, sometimes that change has to be customized for local communities all over the place, in which case you have to bring about a change and then give the communities time to absorb those changes. But there are other changes which can scale across the country, across the communities and so on. And, you know, we talked quite a bit about the startups this morning, the freedom fighters and the people who are bringing about changes and so on. Let me draw the parallel between the social sector and the private sector. In the private sector, if we looked at the industry 100 years ago, there were a few large companies in the world and things came in and it took a long time before the changes happened. In fact, when telephone was invented a long time ago, it took about 75 years before telephones actually spread out throughout the world. And that change is now happening faster and faster and faster. You know, when ChatGPT came along, it took about 4 months. But now, DeepSeek looks like it's 4 days. Everybody knows about it. And what's causing that change, that rapid change, is what these freedom fighters, these startups are all about. 100 years ago, big companies came in, established their market share, and they moved at a certain pace. But in the last 50 years, the whole ecosystem has developed for causing change where entrepreneurs can come together and bring about an innovative solution that disrupts the whole change. Some big companies are capable of absorbing those changes and surviving. For example, IBM. IBM is an old company. It's done an amazing job of embracing these changes and keeping up with the world. Now, how do large companies actually embrace innovation? Typically, what they do is they're not very good in innovating themselves. Anytime you have a very large organization, particularly an organization that becomes bureaucratic, is incapable of innovation. So innovation always happens when a small group of people come together and bring about a change. So, but then how do you make it so that it's available for more and more people? If you're lucky enough as an organization to come over to change, you want to make sure that it's available to larger and larger people, and that's what scale is all about. So in the for-profit world, there is a very clear way to scale it. Either you go public and build a large company, or you become a part of the larger company, and the larger company will use its access and distribution channels to bring the solution to a lot of people. In the non-profit world, I see only two ways of how we can scale your organization. So there was something that was happening, you brought about a change, you want to bring about that change at scale to the whole country. If you want to do that, either it has to become a free market economy, that is, there is a financial gain to the person that you're trying to help, and then they pay for it. For example, all our skilling students that you see here who get jobs, they actually pay fees. And if that fee becomes larger than the amount of cost it costs you, it can become a free market economy, and then the free market economy will take over and bring that advantage that previously people did not have to them. Or it becomes a part of the government system, or a combination of the two. And so it's very important that all these different partners come together to bring about a change. And I know it's hard, because hard to work with the bigger systems to bring about that big change. But yesterday we had a very interesting meeting with the Chief Minister of Telangana. Raju Reddy had organized a meeting for us with CM Mr. Revant Reddy. I, Anil Godwani, and Jayashree actually had an opportunity to meet and discuss with him. And he actually spent a lot of time with us. And he's very keen on embracing that kind of model where a non-profit invests money in coming up with these ways of not necessarily accepting the way things are, but bringing about a change, and then adapting it in a way so that the government can scale it throughout the whole Telangana state. And if we can do that, I think that can be a fantastic role model for how we can scale these things. And then organizations like the Kakatiya Sandbox can continue to be the R&D for the non-profit world and keep coming up with different solutions. But like we talked about today, none of this would happen unless all of us come together and put our resources, our brains, our compassion, and our heads together. So thank you. Thank you very much for being here, spending so much time. And I really look forward to all of us. At the end of the day, I think none of us by ourselves can bring about any change in this world, because it's a complex world, it's a large world. And the fact that all of us can come together and feel good about, bringing about this change and seeing that smile on people's face when they actually benefit from the effort that all of us put in. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. To the point, precise, and very clearly delivered what the whole idea was. Now it's time for us to create the forum, the relevant forums. All the students, I request all of you to move to the skilling track. You know the location, right? You have volunteers who will guide you. I want all the students and people of the skilling ecosystem to move to the other track, please. Thank you. On the way, if you want, really want tea and biscuits, it's being served here, so you can pick it up and go there. You have 10 minutes for you to make that transition. And here, we're going to have the focus group, the focus track discussion on scaling and entrepreneurship. And for that, we have Bharat and Bharat joining us, and they will be holding this fort together. So there you go. Check. Check. Check, check, check.
Okay, so Bharat, so your audience, I want all of your audience members to stay here. So you can call them out, ask them to stay around. You can ask them to come closer to the front row so that you're able to engage them well. Requesting that table to come closer. Right, requesting all the participants, all the focus groups to come closer, move to the tables that are closer so that this conversation is going to be a lot more intimate and I know this is going to be fruitful for sure. So all the students in the meantime, you can grab your tea and move to the scaling track, please. Thank you. All yours.
Hello. Hi all. And it's nice to have this discussion today. And this forum will be more productive and insightful for us. And today's focus of the forum is unlocking scale through
Okay, so you know, I'm not calling it out as a tea break because we're running negative on time, but we also know the fact that tea and coffee needs to be served. So it's not a break, but you have a couple of minutes to go grab your tea, coffee and biscuits and come back so that we can start the conversations. Thank you.